Hello, all. Today on Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory Watch Along podcast, we're going to be discussing whip classes, the extra 21 seconds of footage in Raiders, cooking beef, the Miller's Tale, and much, much more. Stay tuned. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory Watch Along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
Make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
Are you ready to talk about the 21-second excitation?
I am so ready.
Oh man, I've watched this one probably 5 times in the last couple of weeks, just putting it on again and again. I loved it.
One. Oh, go ahead.
I'll let you go first. Yeah.
Oh,
you first.
I think I've seen the ending to this one before I was watching the show, and I couldn't tell you when I saw it or why I saw it, but I vividly remember them being in the theater, running away, and the crowd chasing them. And I don't even know if I remembered Will Wheaton being in it. I remember for some reason seeing Sheldon run away. So this is one that I had seen part of. Didn't ruin anything for me. I still had no idea what was going on. I just really vividly deja vu of that ending. So
Yeah, it was probably when it got syndicated or something like that. You probably just saw it changing the channels or with Taylor or something like that.
Random dream of my future. Watching it. I dreamt of myself watching it.
Well, I was gonna say, honestly, the guys' storyline was okay, but it was the girls. The girls made it.
They were hilarious, and this is the first time I really saw Amy interacting with Penny. And I always loved Bernadette; she's amazing. But Amy really interacting with them, and it was some quality stuff. As much as I like Sheldon and Penny, Amy and Penny, I think I like that interaction more. It's hilarious.
It was great. Penny is the glue that keeps everyone together. She's the grounded person that just fits in so well.
And I also like that there was a little bit of the emotional progression. And I think relationships and shows they build, and I dislike when shows completely forget about the romantic interest and then have it all in one episode. And this was just a slight hint oh, there's still some romance there, and I liked how they handled it, and it worked, and definitely funny stuff in it. Although I have some IQ points that I think some of the info is questionable. So I'm looking forward to conversation
too. But yeah, back on that emotional the storyline of the emotions and everything like that, I really like that too, just because it was a hint that their relationship happened. They're still trying to move forward and get over it and everything like that, and it's a real conversation that friends kind of have, where it's what happened? You guys seem so happy and everything, and what's going to happen when he moves on? Are you ready to move on?
Yeah. And in that case, I felt I don't want to get too much into it, but I felt like it was a real game of truth or dare in that instant, and it made the show real for me, so I like that.
Yes. Well, a little bit of housekeeping before we just dive into the episode. Leave us an email at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com, and we will read your email, which we actually got 2 emails on the same topic. So we got 2 emailers commenting on Penny being missing. Ryan and I had no idea, which we talked about last episode, and some great emails clarifying it.
I felt a little daft. Oh, so everybody knew this. And also the fact that we didn't bother looking it up. Maybe we should look this up, but it wasn't until we read the vanity card and we're oh yeah, now it makes sense.
Well, thank you, Rebecca and Amanda.
Yes,
since they were both about the same thing, you guys were very nice about it. You didn't shame us, so we really appreciate that. But yeah, we honestly just didn't even think about it. We're just oh, Penny's not there. Okay, moving on.
That happens. Do you want to take Rebecca's? I'll take Amanda's.
All right, I'll take Rebecca's. So Rebecca wrote, the title was Penny's Absence. So she said, "Hi there, it's Rebecca. So after some research, I am pretty sure Penny is absent from the season 4 episodes due to a horseback riding Kaylee sustained in 2010. Hope this helps. Also keep up the good work. I still look forward to your episodes. Rebecca." And
Thank
then
you.
Ryan responded, which I don't know if you want me to read your email.
No, that's just between us and
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
That was
So
special.
we will just leave it at that. And then she responded, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and Amanda's email, hey, Ryan and Rob, I'm a few episodes behind, but the episode you mentioned Penny was not in due to the fact that Kaylee, actress that plays Penny, was injured during a horseback riding accident and she missed a few episodes. Hope that helps Amanda. So that's awesome that people are paying attention and that they care enough to write in and let us know. So I also think it's funny that Chuck Lorre pointed out in a freaking vanity card.
Yeah. Thanks again for all those emails. Email us and we'll always read it. And then leave us a review on Spotify and Apple. Give us 5 stars and we will give you a shout out. And then you could also follow our social media on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. And a little juicy update that I told you about.
Juicy update time.
Here we go. So remember, for anybody that any new listeners, a true crime incident happened to me. And we've been following it along. If you're interested in the full story of what happened to me, you should check out our episode 22, which was season 2, episode 4, The Griffin Equivalency. First half hour is dedicated to what happened. But there is a court case and we are following it. Juicy update. I have been officially subpoenaed.
Dun dun dun!
They're going to call me sometime next week to go in.
How did they do this? Did they call you or did they send you a letter or?
That's the interesting thing. They called my parents' house and they left me a voicemail. They left a voicemail and my dad called me up or he texted me. He was like, "Hey, the county called you," and they didn't say why they wanted you, but just want to put that on your radar. And then he sent me the information and then so then I got the phone number. I looked at the website to validate that it was real. And it's like, well, the phone number is a real website or it's a real number to the real government office. So I called them and I left a voicemail. Didn't hear anything back. I wasn't sure if it was tax related or if it was related to this. But in the event that it was related to that, I want to do my due diligence. I'm not afraid to go to jury duty. I'm not afraid to go to take time out of my day for something like this. Because
I am. Do you know how much they pay you on jury duty? Like $5. Dang.
Well,
I'm afraid of that.
Well, I'm salary, so I guess it's okay.
Oh, fair.
But, it's civic duty. I've never really been above that. I've been only called to jury duty once. No, I've been called in multiple times, but I always get dismissed. But I did have to go in once, and then I got cut. But I understand that this isn't jury duty. I'm subpoenaed as a witness.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know I'm probably going to get dismissed very quickly because based on you'll know this, based off the story, I actually know nothing.
I was going to say that you're basically going to say, did you hear gunshots? Yes. Okay. You're free to go. Right.
Well, the funny thing is I didn't. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
When this happened, Hunter was only like 5 months old. He was less than 5 months. He was born in October, and this happened in February. So November, December, January. He was 3 months old.
Wow.
So we were wildly sleep deprived. We were trying to unwind, just deal with his sleep schedule and everything. When looking back in hindsight, I did hear it, but at the time, I thought it was something else. It was just so muffled that I just didn't even think about it.
Make it make sense to you, legitimize it.
Yeah. So I'm sure I'll get dismissed the first day, but I just thought it was crazy that after 2 years, because it's been about 2 years, because it happened in 2023, around February, around now, this is around the anniversary of when it happened. They're finally calling me in. It's what the fuck?
I could see subpoena being kind of fun because you just get to kind of see things, and hopefully it only takes like a day out of your time or half a day, right? But for jury duty, like that could go on indefinitely. Like, oh God,
Yeah, depending on like what the court case is.
yeah. And for some reason, the past 6 months, I've known like four people to get called to jury duty. I've never like known anybody to get called before these 6 months. I'm like, God, they're gonna come for me next.
But yeah, that's my juicy update, and I will let everyone. If I'm allowed to talk about it, I'll probably just ask them because honestly, like I try to look in like what exactly as like a bystander, as someone that got subpoenaed as a witness. I really don't know what I'm allowed to talk about because I understand if you're on the jury, you can't say anything. But I'm
Yeah,
just
so
like,
see.
but I'm being brought in as a witness.
In fact, I was talking to somebody about it, and I thought it was weird that like technically like the case is public and the details were public, but the jury's still not allowed to talk about it. I'm like, if the case is public, why aren't they allowed to share public details? But I don't know. There's probably some reason. I think the justice system is all wonky, so I have issues. But in theory, they have. You're not supposed to talk even about public details, apparently, or they were advised not to.
Yeah, like they're just supposed to be like under a rock.
Yeah,
Like while they're actually like a juror and everything, they're not supposed to like watch the news. They're not supposed to be talk to anybody. They're not supposed to bring anything up.
but these ones were allowed to go home at night, so it's like, and then you
Must
have
have
the
not been
question
a
like,
serious one.
what movie was I watching? There's some old movie that said,
Was it Pauly Shore? Jury duty?
ooh, my no, actually, I think I want to say it was called Homegrown. I can't remember. It's a Billy Bob Thornton movie, I believe. Uh, who else was in it? Billy Bob Thornton. Blanking on her name. The woman from the Halloween movies.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis, I believe, was in it, and it was basically about this drug lord getting killed, and these three guys who are basically just kind of the Three Stooges ending up with like tons of pot, and one of them tells a girl that they have the pot. It's been so long since I've seen it, but tells her, and one of them's like, "So how did she find out?" And the other guy's like, "Well, she fucked him." He goes, "That's a good way to get information." So the point of this is that if you're going home and sleeping with somebody, I can go ahead and assume your partner knows about it. If they're supposed to or
Yes.
not, things come up in bed, and they have for centuries, since human creation, right? You got to come up with something for pillow talk, I suppose.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting and an interesting thought. It's like because then your partner could definitely sway your opinion because you know they're going to talk about it.
Right? Yeah. Oh, you better not go in
Yeah.
there and vote guilty. Honey, I think I'm the juror.
Well, if any listeners out there have been on the jury, I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah,
Let us
send us
know
some
what happened.
experiences. What is
Yeah.
Rob supposed to expect? Should he bring a lunch? Is it going to be a day or
Yeah. Or are they just going to take one look at me and be like, nah, we're
nah?
good.
Get out. Do you have a podcast, sir? You're out.
Yeah, I've been talking about it a lot.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I'm recording right now.
It's a public hearing, right?
Oh, no.
Well, more details to come. Like I said, they wouldn't give me a date, like a specific day, because according to them, they don't know. So they just said be on standby next week.
Hmm.
So I had to tell my boss, like, oh, by the way, at some point next week, I'm taking a day off. But all right, those are my updates.
And my updates, it was my birthday. Oh.
My mic fell.
I noticed some shadows moving.
We're like, what the hell? All right, we're good now.
It was my birthday recently, and Rob got me some gifts that I said I would open on air. So, which one should I open first?
I would say open the big one first for the note to make sense.
Okay, big one
It was
first.
funny because like I ordered them on Amazon and I sent them to him and I wanted to give you a gift receipts, and it gives you the option to write things. So I wrote something on there, and it's like, well, crap, it's not going to make. And then I got the notification that they're shipping them separately. So I was like, crap, the one with the note in it is going to show up first. It's not going to make sense.
There was a 50-50 shot.
And I was a little rushed when I ordered this just to make it to you on time. So the big thing that you're opening is returnable, but the thing in the envelope is not returnable. So if you do want it returned, I could send you a code.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, it's not like it wouldn't allow me to gift it.
Turning note here.
Oh, is that
the, maybe. Thanks for buying.
Okay,
After
it'll be in
that.
the other one then.
BBQ caddy for backyard picnics and camping. So Rob knows I love barbecuing, and I just got a Traeger for my cabin. I have a big green egg for my home, and this is going to be awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I thought that might be useful. Like,
Oh yeah,
It's a caddy, so it has like the paper towel thing. It has like little. Imagine like you're at a restaurant and like and how it has like a condiment caddy. It's basically that.
And like I don't know how people. No, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and say the majority of humans are unhygienic when cooking. I was watching a lady cook eggs because I'm trying to figure out how to cook like the perfect circles for like egg McMuffins, and
Did she have like that metal ring?
yeah, she did. I was looking
Yeah.
because I got some of those too. I'm like, how do I use these? And I was watching, and she like cracked the eggs, and she's like, and you want to be really clean when you do this. So I keep my sink filled with soapy water. I just dip my hands in, and they're clean. I'm like, dipping your hands into soapy water does not clean your hands. So,
Oh my god! Send me that video. I want to watch that.
I'll have to find it. But I was like, oh god, I'm surprised you and your family don't all have salmonella, or get it regularly.
Just a little dip.
But having paper towels on hand so I can open up the door and not have like if I'm touching meat and then I have to go back inside, like that's so handy. I appreciate that so much.
I wasn't sure if you had one already. But...
I do not.
Well, good. I'm glad you like it.
That's awesome. Oh, here's the note.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Ryan. Think of me every time you tug on some paper towels, every time you squeeze a mustard, every time the sound shrieks when plastic silverware rubs against each other, or you can return this. Thank you so much. I will...
You were supposed to read that a lot more sexual, though.
Oh. Okay, should I go again?
Maybe.
Happy
That's what
birthday,
I was going for.
Ryan. Think of me every time you tug on some paper towels. Every time
There
you
it is.
squeeze a mustard. Every time the sound shrieks when plastic silverware rubs against each other. Or you can return this.
That's cool. Yeah.
I love it.
I wanted to go on and on and on, but there's a character limit.
Oh, damn it, Amazon! I was trying to get my sexy on.
I was going to write an essay.
Essay. AI, can you make this sexier?
Make sexier.
Games Room Beer Trivia. Oh, so it's like a card game? Pop a cold one or hoist your mug as you... Should I read this sexy too? As you challenge your friends and family with foamy and fun trivia questions. These 140 multiple choice questions tap into the beer-centric topics you can imagine, from science and history to pop culture and fun facts. Who is the Mesopotamian goddess of beer and brewing? Ninkasi, Tiamat, Shala, Nanshi. I'm going to say Ninkasi due to the brew. There's a brewery named Ninkasi, right? So...
Oh, yeah. Huh.
That would be my
no
guess,
idea.
but
Yeah.
Does it have the answer on here? Doesn't have...
I guess you have to open it to find out.
I'm just going to Google it. But we got it now, just to save time.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you so much, man. I greatly appreciate it. Ninkasi, which goddess is she?
And this is your 68th birthday, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So old. It is in the costume, Mesopotamian
Hmm.
goddess. Ah, that's great. I'm looking for more like little games like this too. Like you guys all know I'm a big board game fan, but
Yeah.
like most of my board games take like 30 minutes to set up, 4 hours to play, an hour to take down, and I need something that you just like pull out cards and like when
Yeah.
you can't concentrate. Ah, thank you so much.
No problem. Well, now that we're like 20 minutes into this episode, let's dive
Yes,
into the episode.
let's. Oh, we're doing an episode. Shit.
We're a Big Bang Theory podcast.
Oh yeah. By the way, did you hear that there's I can't remember, I think it was the creators are making a How I Met Your Mother podcast rewatch along?
Oh, the creators are.
I
Okay.
think so. And Taylor sent me the message. My phone's up
Well,
there,
if
but
Chuck Lorre ever makes this Big Bang Theory rewatch, we're fucked.
right, nobody's gonna care about us.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I
Chuck
guess I'll
Lorre.
focus. I guess I'll focus on my day job. Ugh.
Oh. But I was trying to tell them like they should probably contact us because we know how it works and we could give them some
Yeah, no,
advice. But
no deal. Or maybe they want to just put us on the payroll and we'll do it
yeah,
officially. We'll interview everyone.
we could do it.
Well, speaking of How I Met Your Mother, that does kind of tie into like kind of a little bit how we created our podcast. I think I mentioned this like one of the earlier episodes. One of my inspirations was actually a How I Met Your Mother podcast
Yeah.
on how we should do it. It was this, and I honestly recommend everyone they haven't recorded in a really long time, so I don't know if they're doing it. It's been like over a year
Ooh.
since they've recorded, so I think they kind of just dropped out. Something happened, they never really explained, but something happened, they dropped out. But
They were subpoenaed.
possibly, and
Dun,
they're
dun, dun.
still on trial.
No, no.
Raiders was like, no, fuck this shit. We're gonna do it better. But it was called Hey Beautiful. They got to season 6, and I thought it was one of my favorite podcasts for a really long time. And they were very inspiring because they were just two regular people. They both had jobs and families and stuff like that, but they just wanted to podcast. And it was like, well, if they could do it, why can't we?
That's
And
true.
I'm sure they were still more popular than what we'll ever be, but whatever.
That's fair. We're cooler.
Yeah. But do you know what the podcast is called? Do you know what they're gonna?
I don't. Let me see really quickly. He texted me on it, and I think Josh Radnor teams up with co-creator Craig Thomas.
Oh, Ted is gonna do it.
Yep. And after 11 seasons, I don't see a name though.
Okay.
But
Well, I will definitely check that out. I'm actually in the middle of my How I Met Your Mother rewatch. I'm on season 5 right now.
that's a show that I just put on random episodes. It's my feel good show. It's one of my feel good shows.
Yeah.
It depends how bad I'm feeling. Like if I'm feeling bad, How I Met Your Mother. Or if like I need to cheer up, How I Met Your Mother. If I'm feeling really depressed, it's Frasier. Or if it's a holiday and I don't know what's going on with my life, that's Friends.
Yes.
It's a
That's good.
systematic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's How I Met Your Mother, The Office, and Mythic Quest.
Mythic Quest, which we were
Yeah.
talking the other day, they have a new season coming out, right? So, or
Yeah.
it's they've started releasing episodes. I need to rewatch the whole thing. I love it.
Did you watch the first two? So we're at a stage in our calendar where only the first two episodes have been dropped.
I haven't watched the first two episodes yet.
Okay, we'll wait
but
and talk about
yeah.
it then. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. Should I rewatch the whole thing, or should I just dive right in?
I might rewatch it just on my own. I was gonna have Christina watch it, but she's just not into it. It's just not
Yeah.
her style. I don't know why.
I don't get it
Why
either.
do I even keep her around?
I don't care if you're the mother of my son. Get out. You either like Mythic Quest or you don't.
You got to get out.
So, I don't think Kelsey would like it. She's not a big fan of sitcoms. The only sitcom that I've known she's actually liked was The Middle with the janitor from Scrubs.
Yeah.
And everything else I've tried to play with her or play for her sitcom wise she has not liked. And I think it's partially because she's named after Kelsey Grammer, so she really hates Frasier. She's like, "That's how I got my name." Like, but I love Frasier. That was
Oh, that's so
a
sad.
sign from the universe. I loved you.
Yeah.
um, um, so yeah, I don't think she's not really into video games, so I don't think she'd appreciate it. I tried to get my dad to watch it. I think he's watched a couple episodes, but it didn't click with him either. And I'm like, I think it's because of video games. But
Honestly, to be brutally honest, there's only a couple storylines that are really worth following. There are some characters that's like, why are you even here? Like, I love this show, but we could axe you out and it would be fine.
yeah,
Like the storyline would still like move forward and everything like that. Like as much as I love Danny Pudi, his character is kind of like, I kind of get why you're there. I get it, but you don't need to be there.
yeah.
Carol, the HR girl.
I love
Why
her
are
so
you-
much, but it's true. Why are you there?
But it's so weird because she keeps saying things aren't HR issues, but that's obviously an HR issue. It's like, what? Do you just not want to do your job? But anyways, we're not talking about like we're really deviating. So
Yeah.
back to Big Bang Theory.
Back to it.
Sorry, everyone. Now we are officially starting.
Okay.
We are in season 4, episode 8, the 21-second Excitation, aired November 11th, 2010. Written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by Lee Aronson. Directed by Mark Sandrowski. Opening at the apartment, the group is watching Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Penny is pointing out some potential flaws in the movie, like how is Indy so good with a whip? And we learn that Howard says that we learned that Howard took a class at the adult bookstore, and that's where he learned how to whip. Interesting.
So I did an IQ point on this, or I also had a question. When he said the adult bookstore, like the porn shop?
That's what I took it as, yeah.
So, I'm just confused on what type of whipping was he taking? Like sexual whipping? Or like, the first time I listened to it, I thought he was just saying like, oh, like, I don't know. I guess I didn't pick up on the adult part, but I was like, oh, there's a local indie bookshop and they just had like somebody come by and have a fun day of whipping stuff. But now it makes sense, adult bookshop whipping.
It was definitely sexual.
Yeah, but I did an IQ point on just whip classes in general and if they exist and how you would go about learning. And doing a quick thing online, I looked at 3 different places. One was Aaron Bonk's website, and apparently that's his real name. And he's a performer from Florida, and he's won some Guinness World Records for whipping. For a 1-hour class online with him, it's $125. I didn't say specifically what you learn, but you could also do $190 and you get like a whip. He sends you a whip and then you have the class. A lot of these places double down as like not just classes for learning to whip, but also like learning to like make leather goods and making leather whips. So I think it's usually people like leather workers who are interested in learning more about whips as hobbies, but also like performers, because this guy seemed one of the questions is FAQs are like, are you a clown? He's like, no, but he definitely does performances and he'll fly places if you are willing to do that. Another one was Sword Guy Builds, and he charges $110 an hour for beginning courses and then bumps it up to $185 for intermediate and advanced whip cracking courses. He has other classes like leatherworking and whip making. But I found out that from his website, the beginner's course covers. And so I'm not sure which one of these you would learn in a sexual whipping class. Sorry, my dog's whining. All right, so the beginning course covers the anatomy of the whip, safety of the whip, curvature of the thong, holding the whip, cattleman's crack, overhead crack, and a flick. I don't know what all those are because I haven't taken the course, but I'm not seeing anything about sexual whipping. The intermediate and advanced covers two-hand combo cracking, refining planes, timing, and wrist control, whip-based martial arts, target work, tosses, rhythms, and syncopations. And so I'm guessing if you really wanted to work, you would have to have a couple of those. But it seems like, a couple of hours could point you in the right direction for actually doing Indiana Jones stuff. And again, it's probably the leather working and learning about, like, yeah, making stuff, I guess, making leather goods that might have gotten Indiana Jones interested in it since he's an archaeologist, right? So he's learning about that stuff. But again, I don't know about the martial arts, how somebody goes about that, since these people seem either, again, into the making of the goods or performing with it. A lot of it is like, can you perform with it? Third website was Midwest Whips, which, despite their name, the telephone area code that they gave is out of California, and they have a lot of Hollywood movie credits, like for doing whip goods and martial art stunts, whip stunts, I would say. And they also have an FAQ saying apparently like their number one request is an Indiana Jones whip, and you can get one from them. So if you're looking for Indiana Jones, they specifically say they're into that. They didn't have a pricing for their courses. They said contact, but their events seem more like day-long events. And they have like straight up like whip stunt training. So like if you're a stuntman, like apparently they can train you in using whips for television and movies. They have private coaching for like day-long events, and they have group workshops. They have pictures like of people in hotel lobbies learning to whip. And it's like, if you want like a company to get together, do whipping. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. I don't know if it's worth flying in from Hollywood, but if you live in the area. So apparently there are places that do whipping stuff, and living in California, it's pretty clear that there are organizations that could teach Howard. I didn't see anything necessarily. Maybe I should look more into the adult artistry of whipping. So that part I'm not sure about, but definitely people and places that you could have learned it from. And yeah, different reasons you could get into it. So that's my first IQ point.
Nice. I definitely think that you should look into that other whip class and report. We'll be expecting a red hot update next episode.
Red hot.
Oh yeah, bloody.
Bloody. So I'm not sitting for this podcast because my butt hurts.
But, no particular reason why.
But I have an update on the adult whipping. In other news.
Well, Leonard is actually shocked that Penny hasn't seen this movie. But Penny is shocked that he hasn't read Eat, Pray, Love, which is a book that changed Raj's life. Penny appreciates Indy's hat and says that she could rock that hat. And then Sheldon goes on this big speech explaining that it was the work of Hollywood costume designer Deborah Nadelman, whom also designed the iconic red jacket that Michael Jackson wore in the Thriller episode. And then he says that he doesn't really like dancing zombies, which is kind of funny that that's the moment that he chooses to suspend belief. With all the things that he watches.
That's a good point. I get a point for being like Sheldon here. I really don't like that music video, and I wanted to love it so much because I like scary stuff. He goes on to say, but he doesn't like things scary. I do love scary stuff. I'm like, oh, it's like a monster film, but it's dancing zombies, and I'm like, I should love this. I've always been bored watching it, and I'm like, it sets it up as a horror movie. I'm always disappointed, and it ends with like a twist ending with Michael Jackson being like, But anyways,
a little too cheesy for you.
A little too cheesy. The dancing isn't scary. There's really no reason behind any of it. It's just I don't know. It's an utter disappointment for me. Every step of the way. I have horror writing friends who love it, but.
Yeah, I remember watching it as a kid and being it scared the hell out of me as a kid. I was really young when I watched it, so like the opening part, like when they're in the theater and the werewolf stuff and everything like that, that really scared me. Seeing him as a zombie scared me. I was like, ah, it's scary. So I get it.
I can't complain too much. I'd say, to be fair, I think the original Ghostbusters was kind of scary. I think one of the first scenes that ever scared me was the original Ghostbusters when the dog creature, I forget the name, is in the closet at the party.
And he throws the jacket on it.
Yeah, and then it chases him down, and it like basically eats him while people are eating dinner, and him pounding on the window, screaming for help, and people just watching. And then the face of that dog like traumatized me as a kid. I don't know why. It's like people don't care about people; they care about their dinners. It's not that scary, but weird things get into kids' heads and like really traumatize us.
Yep. Well, we find out that the guys are going to the theater to watch the, in quote, you love these air quotes, the extended version, which is an extra 21 seconds, which supposedly solves the submarine controversy. Did you look into this?
I did. I did two parts. If this version actually exists and what the submarine controversy is.
Me too, but I'll let you take it.
Oh, I just went with the other one. So with whipping, I whipped it good. So you can start this.
Oh,
one.
Okay. Well, all right. It is a real controversy in quotes in the movie. Because man, I wanted to watch this movie like in preparation to this episode, but I just did not have time for it. I was just like, dang, because I haven't watched Raiders of the Lost Ark in like decades.
Right? It's got to be at least
so
20
long.
years.
So like I completely forgot about all this and everything like that. But in the movie, it's a deleted scene. I'm sure most people already know this. If you're watching this, you probably are a huge fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but we will go for it. What happens in the movie is that Indy gets captured, and the Ark and his lady love are captured as well. He dives into the ocean and heads for the submarine. Then there's basically this huge major cut, and they're apparently just at their destination. So the controversy is pretty much like, well, did you just hang on to the submarine? Like, what happened? Like, where? Like, how did you even get there?
How did you breathe if it went underwater, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And if you went inside, why didn't they catch you?
Mm-hmm. So everyone's always been like, whoa, what happened there? They end up on a remote island, and Indy is just there waiting for them, and he has a rocket launcher. The deleted scene shows that the submarine never actually submerged underwater, that it was basically just kind of like at the top. So he was holding on to the periscope the entire time. So he got lucky. That's all I had.
Yeah, that's and I think I read somewhere that they partially cut it because it looked cheesy, and it seems kind of cheesy to see him just kind of hanging there in the water, getting wet, and like he'd probably get like hypothermia or something if he's being splashed with water for that long, right? So I could see it being kind of cheesy, and there's some discussion over whether or not it was a budget reason that Spielberg couldn't make it look good, or he was time constraints. But one thing I did find that was interesting was that this deleted scene only really came up, according to my understanding, it was first discussed and really handled. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but from what I came from CBR, Comic Book Resources, is that it was talked about and shown in the behind the scenes features on the Blu-ray disc that was released in December 17th, 2013. So this episode takes place in 2010. They didn't know about the behind the scenes necessarily because it hadn't been re-released for Blu-ray. So I think that's my understanding of why, because now it's like you look it up and there's definite explanations for it. Also, there's a novelization that kind of explains it, apparently, if anybody reads those. The other thing I looked up was, I don't think there's a 21-second extended cut. That there's behind the scenes footage, but they never actually released a version with this. in it. And I looked at IMDb and Wikipedia about the different versions, and there are some different versions. No mention of an extended version necessarily. It said ABC released a television version that was 24 seconds shorter. A lot of the different versions actually have different audios and effect glamorizations, basically touching things up, making them look improved, look a little bit better, I suppose. Some had changes in audio. In fact, the one that I thought was really interesting is there's a detail on IMDb saying that only on the Laserdisc version, if you happen to have a Laserdisc player and a Laserdisc of this movie, I'm curious, but there's a scene where Indy is in a map room and drops a staff. And for some reason on the Laserdisc version, they have a different sound effect for that. Like nothing else is different except that sound effect is different, and it's nowhere else in any other version of the film. The other notion that if you're looking up extended scenes from this, I don't think it was ever actually filmed, but it's worth noting that there was supposed to be an extended fight scene with Indiana Jones and the sword fighter when they are fighting by the plane, I believe. And it's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's the iconic scene where Indiana Jones doesn't fight him. He just pulls out his revolver and shoots him. And apparently Ford had dysentery and was really not up for filming very much, so they just had him shoot the guy and cut out, like, apparently the sword fighter trained for weeks for this scene, and the whole thing got cut, and he just got shot and killed because Indiana Jones had dysentery. So, again, there's different versions, but I don't know of a 21-second longer version, just this deleted scene and talks of the scene. So that's what I had. I'm curious about that sound effect on Laserdisc, like, what the fuck?
We need to know.
I just imagine, what is it, like a bloop? Like, what? Where did that come from? Kabloop.
Anything else on Indiana Jones?
That's it.
Cool. Well, Leonard is delusional because he says that if only Penny liked these kinds of movies, they would still be together. He definitely forgot why she dumped him.
Right? I was going to say, that has nothing to do with why they broke up, and maybe he's just making a joke out of it, but that was not the reason.
Yeah. Nope. But it could have been 21, another 21 seconds could have been the reason why they broke up, though. And I just love the look that she gives Leonard, like, no, that's not true.
I get 1 point for being like Howard, because I swear, if I was the only person thinking that this was a sexual connotation of some sort through the beginning of the episode, since I read the title, like Howard,
you instantly went to sex.
I went to sex with 21 seconds. Not sex stuff. Which is weird because I didn't pick up the adult bookstore until after the episode, so let's too focused on 21 seconds.
Fixated on 21 seconds, yeah. So now we have the opening credits, and now we're at the Cheesecake Factory. They're all getting dinner, and they're with Amy. Sheldon is very anxious to leave and get good seats. They all try to tell Sheldon that it's gonna be fine, but he reminds them of the time that they waited 14 hours in line to watch the midnight premiere of Star Trek Nemesis. He said, Leonard reminds them exactly what happened. He says, it was terrible. Sheldon, you slept in a lawn chair. I got into a fight, and you didn't wake up to vouch for me. Oh, and I saw Star Trek Nemesis. But the seats were excellent.
I don't get the hate on Star Trek Nemesis. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it, and I love Tom Hardy, so I just wanted to throw out there, if anybody has any reason for so much hate on Star Trek Nemesis, let me know. Even I just watched the third Venom, and it was pretty awful. Fucking love Tom Hardy, so I guess he makes the movie. Maybe that's the reason I liked it, but I don't understand the hate on Nemesis.
Yeah. I've never seen it. But we've established before that Ryan and I are more Star Wars fans and not so much Star Trek fans. In principle, we would love Star Trek. We just haven't really gotten into it. We've asked everyone to kind of shout out where we should start, because I want to watch it. I mean, it sounds it's pretty interesting if you really think about like the overall premise. It's like very progressive and everything like that. It's like sounds cool, but we just don't know where to start. There's just too many of them.
Yeah.
Because I started with the original, like from the 60s, and that shit was trippy.
Where the set's like cardboard and falling down.
Yeah, it was very ahead of its time, but I was kind of like, I feel like I'm taking so many drugs right now, and I'm completely
Well, you
sober. Like,
were,
what?
but that's beside the point.
I was high on Star Trek, and I couldn't handle the trip.
You cannot handle the trick.
Well, I think I found an error just in this,
Ooh,
because Star Trek Nemesis came out in 2002.
yeah.
And based off the timeline, Sheldon and Leonard met in 2003. Because we learned in season 3, episode 22, The Staircase Implementation, which aired in 2010, that they met in 2003 because when Leonard starts telling the story, he says it all started 7 years ago. So 2010
right.
minus 7 is 2003. So it's a year later than the timeline. Unless I'm missing something. I think they just threw that in there for the joke.
Unless there was a re-release, it happens. I don't know why it would happen with Nemesis because everybody seems to hate it. But like
But they
I know
also
that.
said it was the midnight premiere.
Oh shit, they did say premiere. Yeah. Interesting. That is a.
Unless they met at like the very. Unless he just exaggerated and they really met at the tail end of 2009. And Star Trek Nemesis came out at the tail end of 2002.
Yeah.
But I call bullshit.
That's a hard one to buy. Yeah, I'm with you. That's just a little bit off.
Yeah. So I noticed that.
Damn it,
Because that's
Nemesis.
what we do here. Nemesis, you ruined it again.
Everything.
Well, Sheldon tries to get Amy on his side, but she arbitrarily sides with the guys to gain rapport, but is still obviously on Sheldon's side. And then we enter Bernadette, and she and Howard are very cute together. They have this nice little olive you joke, which apparently they've done multiple times. But it's still adorable.
It is
I like it.
adorable.
And Howard asks Bernadette if she's sure that she doesn't want to join and go see the movie. And then we get some more Bernadette backstory. That movie has melting faces. It reminds me too much of the time I dropped a vial of flesh-eating bacteria in the Rhesus monkey lab. I was like, what?
Fuck, Bernadette. Why would we do that? That would be a very bad thing.
Well, she can't go because she and Penny are having a girls' night. And this perks up Amy because she's a girl. So then she goes to ask Penny about girls' night herself because they're very close. They're so close that their menses have synchronized. And I was wondering how she would even know that because because that's the joke is that they're not that close. It's like, well, how do you know that?
She's
Have you
keeping
been
tabs
keeping
like
tabs
Sheldon
on her?
does.
Yeah. It's like in Community when Abed was like tracking like people's behaviors and he unintentionally marked all of their cycles. Like I didn't know what I was doing. Well, now Amy is going to girls' night and she needs to go shopping now to find something comfortable. And now we shift over and we are outside the theater. It's a super long line, and Sheldon informed them thusly. He is very mad. And as they walk to the back of the line, he is pointing out each location of where they should be if they didn't stop. Like, here's where we would be if we didn't stop for dinner. Here's where we would be if Raj didn't order dessert. But he had his broccoli. So good for you, Raj.
One point, like Raj, I would be late if it meant I could have dessert. I freaking love dessert, and not going to shame anybody for wanting a little dessert, especially if you finish your broccoli.
Yes, you earned it.
Amen.
Well, now we shift over to Penny's apartment, and Amy has no idea how to be around other girls. Because she thinks that girl talk is talking about her lady parts and the fungus between her nails. Or nails from unsanitized tools from nail salons.
So I did a little IQ point on this, and it's not too much, but a little bit because I it always freaks me out because you can get pretty severe infections from manicures and pedicures. Do you know anything on this?
I did not.
No. It's kind of a quick one, but according to Piedmont.org, a healthcare site from Georgia, it says that basically make sure you don't get nicks and cuts that could harbor bacteria and fungus. And don't get them when you go in. So a couple tips they have, because basically you can get infections, serious infections. You can get fungus that cause permanent damage or sickness, illness. They didn't say it, but I'm going to go ahead and assume amputation, because what happens when you get infected? They start cutting off body parts. It's old, right? Yeah, whatever. So they say don't shave the day you're going in to get one. Shaving can cause nicks, and it ups the chance of a infection of some sort. Even if their tools are clean, there are other places that bacteria can be harboring. And it says that make sure the salon drains, sanitizes, and rinses baths between customers. And the issue is, even if it's done properly, dead skin and bacteria lingers in the jets. So if you have a nick on your leg, and even if they sanitize, that jet can shoot bacteria right into your bloodstream and then off with your leg. Again, I'm kind of that's where my mind goes, but I think it's logical. Make sure the salon is licensed to sterilize their instruments, or that they use new ones with every customer, because using the same instruments, not sterilizing them properly, can cause infections and fungus. And they say actually avoid the foot bath altogether. That's probably the biggest issue, that they can sterilize equipment, but the foot bath is probably the biggest issue. And they said that what you're looking at is three major things: ingrown toenails, fungus, and infection. With ingrown toenails, it's a pretty easy treatment. You'll know it because your toe's going to be red and painful and swollen around the edge, and all you have to do is clip that out, or go into a doctor and they clip it out for you. Um, Fungus, on the other hand, will cause your nail to thicken and change colors, usually turning it yellow or black. And usually it becomes flaky. And as far as I know, this takes months and months to fix, and it takes like severe medications. So that is kind of a pain in the butt. And then infection is redness and swelling at the infection site. So that's not even necessarily in the toes, but it could be on your ankle or your leg. And that one, again, infection can always turn bad very, very quickly. So you want to be sure, if you're running a fever or something, you're going to the doctor pretty quickly. But they do say that if you're going to get this done, be very wary and be prepared to go to the doctor if you're seeing any of these signs or symptoms. So just a little, if you, don't want amputation, be careful.
Makes me never want to get a mani pedi.
Right?
Oh my god, I never even considered any of that stuff.
That's the joys of being a what's the word? Oh man. Germaphobe. Wow, why would I not remember that? Germaphobe. I'm germophobic. I'm scared of germs and infections.
All right, well, it gets awkward, and Penny pops open more wine. She tells Bernadette that she could just spend the night, and Amy is excited because she thinks it's a slumber party now. She's never been to one. It's basically a slumber party. The closest that she got to a slumber party was when she got her tonsils out, and she shared her room with a little Vietnamese girl, which I didn't quite understand why they had to call that out. Like, why did
yeah, a little Vietnamese, like, that was odd. I did like the story though, but why?
It was kind of funny. But at the same time, I was like, oh, why? I don't know.
It's like
I'm Asian, so I question that kind of stuff. It's like, why?
Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they call the one guy the old black man. And they're like, why can't we just call him the old man? Why do we have to say the old black man?
Well, she didn't make it through the night. And I wasn't sure if that meant that she died.
I think she died, yeah.
Like, oh my god.
I don't know why she'd be in for a tonsil removal with somebody who is going to die, but wow.
Well, they call it a slumber party for Amy, and then she smacks Penny in the face with a pillow. And I love that. And I loved Amy's reaction, just like her deadpan, like kind of like awkwardness. And now we cut back to the theater. Leonard has been back and forth to the gas station, and he keeps getting a Gatorade. It's a vicious cycle. Why couldn't he just get candy? I don't. I get it's a funny joke, but it's like just get candy, bro.
I kind of pictured the guy actually saying, "Here, have a Gatorade, take it."
Yeah.
Actually making him take the Gatorade.
Buy the Gatorade, and you get to go.
Oh, do you want to go? Have some Gatorade.
Well, we learned that Howard is wearing a stadium pal, and he could just pee wherever he goes. It's actually pretty smart.
It's kind of gross, and I feel like unless he had like a catheter, like how does it say? Like, does it suction cup to your willy? Like,
Maybe it's underwear that he just kind of like slides on and it's a tube inside.
like astronaut undies?
Yeah. Well, Raj comes back and he calculated that they may not make it into the theater. And this wakes up Sheldon. And then Will Wheaton comes by.
Will
Dun,
Wheaton.
dun, dun. And then we get some Jar Jar Binks jokes because Jar Jar Binks is the worst. And just like Will Wheaton, he's the worst at this point in time. And then a theater staff member, Joey, sees Will and he hooks them up with seats.
Guest star
Eric Andre.
Eric fucking Andre. I love seeing Andre like in regular roles from time to time, and then like seeing his show and be like, wow, he's a different person in his head.
I've actually never seen his show.
I've seen a couple.
I've only seen him, and I know he's a big voice actor. I recognize his voice like all the time. So he's been in Archer, Sing 2, Disenchantment, Trolls Band Together, Lion King, the new version, American Dad, and Robot Chicken. But I remember him from Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23, which ended too soon. That was actually a great show.
Is that the one with Dawson?
Kristen Ritter?
James Vanderbeek.
And he plays himself. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a couple episodes.
I love that show.
I think Kelsey liked that one too. As far as sitcoms go, I think she liked that one. I knew Eric Andre, from what was it called? The show I'm thinking of is Man Seeking Woman, and I love that show. It was very quick, only 3 brief seasons. But the episode I remember the most, I had a lot of good stuff. But there was a Christmas episode where Santa gets rammed by a toy train. And I remember that one very specifically because I like trains. So, but it was a good show. I love the characters. Eric Andre was great in it. But yeah, watch his show because it's different. It's more comedy sketches than anything, just random goofiness. Almost like Tom Green, but I would say better.
Okay.
Yeah, if that makes
maybe
any
I'll
sense.
give it a try. Maybe you kind of lost me at Tom Green, even though it's better. But...
yeah, that wasn't a selling point, was it? Damn.
And well, now we're back at Penny's, and they're having a very strange girls' night. Bernadette is talking about Howard's one long chest hair, which we've actually seen Howard shirtless before. Season 1, the Bat Jar Conjecture, where he rips off his shirt after they win the Science Bowl, and he actually has quite a bit of hair on his chest.
That's true, not just one, right?
Yep. Unless he just has one random long one amongst all of them. But
and it curls around and makes it.
Yeah, it's actually all one hair and that has been curled up and looks like a bunch of chest hair.
It's like those trees that are all one organism, but they all look like a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's gross.
Well, Amy is getting her nails done and she's shocked because she's never looked this pretty and she can't handle it. Get it off.
You know.
Now we're back at the theater, and Sheldon is reading Will's tweets. And he does make a good point that he needs to keep his enemies close.
I was gonna say
And
I
then,
do get 1 point for being like Sheldon because I would be so pissed off if somebody cut in line because they were famous. I would probably be talking about it months afterwards.
line cutting in general
Like yeah,
pisses me off.
just
Yeah.
and Kelsey stood in line for a new book called Onyx Storm that was apparently very popular. And she said while she was in line for it, like there were two guys saying, "My wife's making me sit here," and the other one's like, "My daughter's in school and I have to get this book for her." But like while they're in line, like a bunch of women like pulled up in a car and all got out and joined the front of the line. So they were like placeholders, and they only had like
Oh.
50 of these books at this Target. But like there were placeholders and like all these people. It's like the fuck. So I
Did
would.
they get called out?
No, they got away with it. I don't know because like what are you
Oh.
gonna do? Like you can complain, but nobody's really gonna give a shit. So call the police. They cut my line. I want my book. I don't know, but so 1 point for
There
Sheldon.
was there was a what was that movie with Rainn Wilson where he plays like a pseudo superhero? Um, Ellen Page was in it when she was still Ellen Page. Um, God, but there was a scene in that where there it was oddly satisfying. I know it's horrible, but someone cut in line and he took a hammer and he beat him. Oddly satisfying because people cutting in line like that, doing shit like that, that's on par with like leaving your shopping cart in the middle of the parking lot. It's on par with like when people take when they park their car and they take up two parking spaces just because they don't want to park next to anyone. Like it's kind of big pet peeves for me.
I was talking to somebody the other day. They're like, it's not that big of a deal. In traffic, people cutting me off or being in line and people cutting to the front of the line and pulling in. And it's like, I know what zipper merging is, but there's also if people are in line to get off onto a bridge and you use the shoulder to cut in or something like that, that's just fucking cutting. People are like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, no, it is because that just cost me like 2 seconds of my life. And if two people do that a day, that's 4 seconds a day of my life. And you start adding up, that's several minutes a year. By the end of my life, I've wasted several hours because of people cutting me off. So anyways, I do believe like it's stealing a little bit of my life every time somebody cuts me off. And I take it very personally.
I was going for like the honoriness.
No, no.
It's like, how dare you think that you're better than the rest of us? Just play by the rules.
Just play by the rules. I feel like that doubles down on why I just gave myself a point like Sheldon to calculate how much time they're stealing from me and how angry I should be about it.
Well, Sheldon gets a prank call. At first, as the audience, we actually think it's Will, but then we find out it's Penny.
I did think it was Will, yeah.
Uh-huh. I just love that he didn't even get it.
And I was kind of like, how did Will get his number and why is he calling him just for that? But then I'm like, oh, it's Penny. It makes sense.
Yeah, because they were just talking about like what you do at a slumber party. They even like mentioned it earlier, doing prank calls and stuff like that. But Amy doesn't understand the humor, and then she hops on Wikipedia to see what's next on a slumber party. Like, what do you do? And the next task, or not, well, I guess the next activity that they're doing is truth or dare.
That's
And I
the good
like
one.
that she's brushing up on the rules. I did look it up on Wikipedia to see if there actually was like a list, and there isn't. They kind of made it up, and it's under sleepover, not slumber party.
What's the difference?
It's like the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, all the same. And I didn't find anything on lesbian experimentation. So maybe she found all this on a different website.
The adult bookstore website.
With the whips. It was
With
in
the
that whip
whips.
class.
Damn.
Well, Amy still doesn't understand the concept of truth or dare because she asks Bernadette a factual question regarding the cooking temperatures of beef.
This
But then when oh
was weird. Did you look into this?
no, because I mean it's just food safety stuff, so it's
It's
like cooking
not.
to one.
This was
Oh
either a trick question or she was wrong.
oh,
Yeah.
go on.
Bovine spongiform, and I can't pronounce it, encephalopathy is mad cow disease. Mad
Oh,
cow disease is from eating when cows are cannibalistic or eat infected cows. And prions are not bacteria or living organisms. They're like a called folded proteins. Basically, bad proteins that accumulate in your brain and cause damage. It's not a living organism. You can't kill it. And according to the CDC, what would I get? Yeah, mad cow disease. Prion is a protein that accumulates in brain and causes damage, transmitted through contaminated meat or infected cattle tissue. There is no cure. Evidence indicated consuming such meat causes Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in people, which basically shuts down the brain, causes down dementia, and prevents you from taking care of yourself in many different aspects. But again, you can't kill prions. It's like you can't just. I mean, you could burn it up, I guess, but if you're eating charcoal, that's a different issue. But if the meat's still there and you're eating proteins, it's part of the protein, I suppose. So either it's a trick question and she doesn't know how to play true or false or truth or dare, or they screwed something out because yeah, I've always been again germaphobe. Mad cow disease really concerned me because you couldn't kill it, and I'm like, wait, I think I know what she's talking about. So
good. I didn't even look into that. Nice. I'm glad you did.
germaphobe. That's my superpower.
Well, Amy is told that it's actually supposed to be more personal, so she asks her for the circumference of her areolas instead. And just drink your wine and move on. Back at the theater, Sheldon continues to read Will's tweets, and he and Will is getting free popcorn. God, we hate Will Wheaton right now.
Yeah.
But then they make it to the front of the line and they're full. They can't see the movie. Sheldon is livid. So Raj suggesting that the new Sandy V
Sandy
movie.
B.
He's talking about Sandra Bullock, and I looked it up to see what movie that he would be talking about,
Yeah.
and she did not do a movie in 2010.
No shit.
Yeah, the last year, 2009, she actually had a huge year. Blindside, All About Steve, and The Proposal. 3 movies in 1 year. But in 2010, she didn't launch anything.
We just watched Premonition, and as much as I like a lot of her movies, have you seen Premonition?
No.
It was awful. It was so bad, and I don't know how they talk Sandy B into being in this movie. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's a horrible ending. It's trying to like play on emotions, like, oh, it's God's work type thing, and I'm like, I think she just killed her husband. Like, that's not God's work. She's a murderer. So little spoiler alert there. But if you want to watch it, you deserve a spoiler alert. So
Basically, what he's saying is don't watch it.
don't watch it, man.
Well, Sheldon has more nefarious plans. He runs into the side door. And now we cut over to Penny's, and Amy is is at the tail end of telling a dirty story. The Miller's Tale by Chaucer, which I did not do an IQ point because you're the literature guy. I kind of
Ooh.
figured that you would. I looked into it a little bit, but just to kind of understand what it is. But I know that you'll be more comprehensive about it.
I tried my best. I've never been a fan of Canterbury Tales. I have friends who like did thesis projects on it, and I just but I understood enough, and I did this 2 parts because it's the tale itself and saying they didn't wear socks for sock drawers to keep it in.
I
And
did
this
that one too.
you did okay. You can take the
I did
sock part.
socks. Yeah.
You take the socks, and I'll take the Drunken Miller's Tale. So it's my
Yes.
understanding this is the second story in the Canterbury Tales, and it's told by a drunken miller named Robin. My understanding is somebody told the first tale called The Knight's Tale, and Robin is responding to it saying, "I owe you a tale. Here's my tale." And his tale is about this married woman. Is quite a bit younger than her husband, and two men want to sleep with her. And when her husband goes away, she kind of sleeps with one, and the other one's kind of hitting on her, and she kind of plays with him. And as far as I understand, this is when it says her neither being
Nether,
kissed. Yeah. Like I thought going down on her as a dirty tale, but it's my understanding is he's kissing her butt. And what happens in the tale is he says, "I want a kiss from you," kind of like Romeo and Juliet, like, "Give me one kiss before I go." And as he's leaning in to kiss, she turns and he kisses her ass. And then she has a laugh at him. So it's not sexual. It's kind of like, "Oh, you kissed my butt." And then he wants vengeance, and he gets like a branding iron, hot iron, yeah. And when he goes back, the guy that she's sleeping with, not her husband, turns his butt so that he can get his butt too, but he brands the butt. And that's when the husband wakes up. There's some allusion to the Great Flood with Noah, and things kind of, explode, climax, if you will. And it wraps up, but again, not too sexual, a little bit funny at the end, and I don't know how it works out because I think her husband finds out she's cheating on him. But again, it's I thought it was going to be more sexual, but it seemed like it was more like kissing her butt and getting vengeance for that. So that was my understanding.
Yeah, I looked it up just on like Wikipedia and some breakdowns and everything like that to know what the story was about, and that was pretty much it. I could based off one thing based off Amy's description of like hygiene. If you care about hygiene, one would not kiss the nether yeah. I wasn't sure if that meant like it was her butthole or was it just like the cheek.
The cheek, yeah, and I thought it was something else, but either or. Back in the day, I have come to assume that people were not hygienic back in the day.
That's true. Even if it was just the skin of the butt, like it's not very hygienic.
Yeah, there's
okay, that's a good point.
I'm a big fan of wet wipes and bidets. And as far as I know, people used to use not corn husks to wipe, and like before that, I don't even know, maybe their hands to wipe, which means that their hands were dirty and their butts didn't get very clean, and I'm sure it smeared it and stuff around. It was all probably very, very dirty, and any of it, kissing of any of it was very unhygienic.
Well, that is a very dirty story then.
It's very dirty. So dirty. Oh man. It's like a pedicure.
But yeah, as I was reading that the synopsis of it, I was kind of just like, man, men really don't like to hear no.
Yeah.
Like both men were just so persistent, and she gave in to like one of them, but the other one was like, fuck off.
And her husband seemed kind of like a pushover. Like, "I'm going to town. Don't cheat on me."
Yeah, and because it was a guy, it was like a scholar that he let stay in his house and everything like that. It's like, you can stay here, but don't sleep with my wife.
No, so don't
even
do
though
it.
She's even though she's young and attractive, and I'm not around.
And she's very doable. I understand, but don't do her.
Then the whole like Noah's Ark thing was like a really weird part of it.
Yeah.
Too. Like they convinced him to like go in like the attic so they could actually spend the night together. It was like, no, Noah is coming and the flood is coming, so you should go in the attic and we'll be over here.
That's again, with my friends who have done like research on this, is that the connections to biblical scripture, and I was reading about that too, the connotation to like Mary and angels and stuff, and it's kind of above my head, and maybe I just don't care enough. But there's some interesting research to be done, and the connections to it, especially for a story that old. But at the same time, for me, I'm like, I'm not seeing the connections completely, even as an English teacher. That's but whatever.
Anything else on the Miller's Tale?
Nope. I think we can move on to the socks.
Yeah. Amy says that it's so dirty that it would have been that copies of the book would have been hidden in sock drawers if people in the 14th century had worn socks. I looked into the history of the sock. So I found this on No Cold Feet and specialfootgear.com. Amy is pretty much right. The vast majority of people in the 14th century didn't have the luxury of socks. But socks, or something that resembles socks, have been around since the Stone Age. Cave paintings that actually have Cave paintings have been found with illustrations of people with foot coverings, most likely from animal skins, pelts, and or plant life. A few thousand years later, socks were mentioned by the Greeks. It was called pilloi, made of matted animal hair and was a covering for people to wear under their sandals.
I want to say
Then the
here that it proves socks and sandals go together. I've advocated for that my whole life, and I've been made fun of for it. It's a big thing, but if the Greeks could do it and write poetry about it, it's a thing.
well, Gen X is all about that, so they apparently know something or two. Just that though.
Just that. That's it.
AI, can I wear socks with sandals?
AI
Yes.
yes. God damn you,
Sorry.
AI!
Sorry, Ryan and I were talking about AI before we started recording, and that's why we keep talking about AI still. Well, then the Romans decided to advance it in the 2nd century AD, where they used strips of leather or woven fabric. Then the Egyptians made knitted socks that had split toes, so they could be worn with sandals. This occurred around 300 to 500 AD. And then the big boom hit in the Middle Ages, which is 500 to 1500 AD, where socks really took off as a status of wealth. 1000 AD, knitted socks were a luxury in Europe. Silk stockings became the rage in the 15th century. They resembled today's versions of leggings, and it was men who primarily wore them as it provided added mobility. Around this time, British aristocrats altered these to tights, so the sock was attached to the leggings. It's basically a onesie, at least the bottom half of a onesie. It
Yoga
evolved
pants.
into yoga pants with socks attached, essentially. That's what it was. And it eventually evolved into colorful silk, velvet, and wool, and each leg was a different color, which partially explains why we like special patterns on and colors in our socks, which still to this point only the wealthy had socks. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution, which was the 1700s, where the mass production of socks came into play. They became more available and cheaper for the consumer. And that is pretty much the history of the sock. Did you have anything else to add?
I was kind of taking it that the wealthy had more socks and nicer socks, but other people had hand woven or they would make their own stuff.
Yeah.
So like that, it might not be what we think of as socks, but they had coverings for their feet. And so I was kind of confused because she says that they didn't have socks. Like she made it seem like they don't have them at all, but it's clear that the wealthy definitely did have them, and that the poor were still, I mean, since caveman days, were putting something on their feet for protection, mobility, warmth, or whatever it might be. I would say it's a bigger chance that they didn't have drawers at all, but yeah, I would say I'm not sure if I agree with her that they probably, it seemed like the socks were invented in the 1400s, so
I guess maybe the really poor didn't have enough fabric
that's,
to do it, so they just wore shoes or something like that.
yeah. Uh, yeah, if anybody has information on that or more research on what the poor did with socks, because it seems like without socks, they'd be getting blisters all over their feet, right? Very quickly, or stepping on rusty nails and dying. But that's a different story.
Well, like the Miller's Tale, it was a dirty
It
time.
is a dirty time. A lot of butt
Dirty,
kissing.
dirty
Dirty
time.
manicures and
Butt
pedicures
kissing
all
and
over.
foot blisters. And nail fungus all
Nail
around.
fungus. Everybody's got the fungus. That's where the colors came from.
Can't spell fungus without fun.
That's true. Oh, God.
Well, now it's Bernadette's turn to ask Penny something. And she goes for truth, and she asks why is she hanging out with Leonard so much? And this leads to several follow-up questions. Why did you break up with him in the first place? What happens when you're ready for a relationship and Leonard is snatched up? And Penny is very upset by this topic and she leaves. And I love that Amy looks at the game and is like, I think we're winning.
I like it when she goes, you can only ask one question, and Bernadette and Amy say at the same time, that one. So it's like, they're not necessarily syncing, but they were on that page.
Yes.
That one.
Well, now we're back at the theater, and Sheldon has stolen the film. Will comes out and sees them, and Sheldon bolts, and then the whole theater chases after them.
And that's the
Now
part
we
I
have
swear I've seen before, is them running after them. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. Oh, well.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Let's knit some socks.
Yeah. Be productive. AI, how do I knit socks?
Well, now we're at the ending, and Penny is still hiding in her room, and Amy checks what's next on the slumber party list, and it's engaging in harmless experimentation with lesbianism. And Bernadette asks where exactly on the internet is she finding this information? Amy goes into Penny's room and tries to experiment. But it's okay because she's going to avoid the nether, yeah.
Yeah.
And Bernadette just runs through the list and just says, I would have gone with cookie dough.
Where are you
And
looking
that's-
online?
And that's the episode. Well, now we have the vanity card,
The
which
vanity
is
card.
another long one. Why am I always stuck with the long ones?
And like it's a hard reader too. Like it's got like not even proper words.
Great. I haven't even looked at it yet.
I just saw those when I put it in my notes. I'm like, those look funny. Those look not readable. I don't know.
All right. Well, here we go.
Here we go.
Chuck Lorre Productions, number 311. When I'm not working on The Big Bang Theory, I work on other TV shows. One of those shows gets a lot of bad press. Sometimes, when I read the very unkind things written about that show, I'll remember the words of a sleazy music manager I was briefly associated with back in my rock and roll days. The guy was right out of Central Casting. Bald, middle-aged, pot-bellied, and sucking on a cheap cigar. He would sit behind his metal desk in his ratty little office and pontificate to dumbass musicians hungry for career guidance. One of his speeches has remained vivid in my memory for 35 years. He said to a soon-to-be non-existent dumbass power trio I was part of, boys... Wait. In quote... All right. In quote, boys, if half the people loves ya, and half the people's hates ya, you're a star. At the time, I had no idea what he was talking about. It wasn't until 15 years later, when I was writing for a TV show called Roseanne, that I figured it out. I was, once again, reminded of all of this when the star of the show I was talking about earlier came out for a curtain call in front of a packed studio audience. They went wild with applause. I looked at the man taking the bow and thought, there is a big star. Then I looked up at the screaming, cheering audience and thought, there are halves to peoples. The end. So I think he's reflecting on when he realized that he was popular, or his show was popular. That you're always going to have some haters out there.
Oh, so he's saying that he hated the star? Man, I'm troubling. Half the peoples love him. They're cheering for him, and then half the peoples hate him. Where are they?
Yeah, actually, I'm not quite sure.
Huh.
He must have been high.
This one was tough for me. I guess it makes sense why the words I saw that didn't look right were dialogue, so that makes sense. But
Yeah.
I guess he's just thinking that how you're gonna get bad people writing nasty letters to you, bad press. But I just don't get. And who's he talking about on Roseanne the Star? Goodman.
Maybe. But I guess he's not really identifying that because he's basically saying that the whole audience went wild with applause. So where is he seeing half the people?
Yeah. Maybe only half the people show up for the cheering, and the other half are at home.
Oh, maybe that's it. The people like, oh, those are half the people because like there was a lot of haters out there.
And the other half are the
And
ones just write in comments and complain.
yeah, like here's half the people that like him.
Uh-huh.
All right.
I'm willing to give him this one. I just wonder who he's talking about.
I guess. I didn't know that he wrote on Roseanne.
That's a new one for me too.
Yeah. I Christina loved that show. I never watched it, but
I watched a couple episodes. I always thought I had issues with it. I thought Roseanne's character was kind of annoying. I didn't like that the older sister Becky changed. I guess that happens, but it bothered me when I was young. Like, this doesn't make sense. I want continuity in my TV. And also, like, they just killed off well, first of all, like, they made a big deal about him being like John Goodman's character being very, very what's the word? About fidelity, monogamous, loyal, and then he like cheats on her out of nowhere, or it felt like nowhere when I was a kid. And then like in the last season, they kill off his character. Well, he's like there, but like it's all a dream that she's writing. Like I did not like. Had issues. I don't know where they were going with it.
well, that's Chuck Lorre.
That's Chuck
Unless he,
Lorre.
did, unless he didn't write those episodes.
And I'm half the peoples.
Well, let's not spend too much time on this vanity card.
We thought about it
All
enough,
right.
so
let's count some points.
okay.
We have 7 IQ points.
And I am still tied. I went up 2 on both sides, 112 to 112.
Nice.
That's a close season.
Yeah. Well, all right. Anything else to add about this episode?
I just wanted to say that is that truth or dare game and honing down on the question that the audience has been wanting to ask, like, hey, you dumped him because you weren't ready. You're going to see him get to, he's been struggling and he struggles, but it's going to happen. He's going to fall in love with somebody. How are you going to deal with that? Because it was clear that you still had emotions for him. And they've eluded like, oh no, it was a solid breakup. But it was clear at the time, like, she just wasn't ready to say, I love you. And this is like, how are you going to deal with it? And I like that it continues to show that she does have emotions and she's struggling with it. So, I think it builds to it and keeps that romance and the hope alive compared to the beginning where they're making up or retconning why they broke up, saying, oh, if we were like that, we'd still be together, because that wasn't the case. The case is that she wasn't ready to say, I love you.
Yep.
So that's what I wanted to add.
Thanks. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. And we will see you next time when we discuss Season 4, Episode 9, The Boyfriend Complexity.
Take care.
See you next time. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening.
I whipped it good.